Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. I'm very excited to present to you this next topic around everyone is an Einstein. But as I get started, let me make sure that I kind of set the stage for you. The word Einstein at Salesforce is essentially a product portfolio for all of our analytics, reporting, AI, insights tools. So for the last 14 years, we've been working on these tools, predictive and generative models. You've probably heard of different tools like Tableau, Slack, MuleSoft, all of our different clouds. And what we do essentially is we think about how best to bake in what it is that customers need when they want to meet their customers. Okay? So that's what this session is going to be about. You've heard a lot so far around sort of the promise and the hype and the different applications and use cases. And ultimately, the truth is that Gen AI has been changing everything faster than ever before, and at a global scale, in fact, which is what's really exciting to be at SuperAI in Singapore. Oftentimes, many of these conferences happen in different parts of the world, but the fact that they're happening here kind of really puts that point forward that this is a global change, and it started with a lot of wide-eyed wonder, right? People woke up December 2022, a recent tweet or X, or I'm not sure how to call that anymore, the message went out, said, everybody can start using this tool called ChatGPT. And everybody was excited. Everybody was getting in there. They were using these tools. And then it started to become a little bit of cautious curiosity because people made some mistakes. People's data maybe was leaked. Maybe there were use cases that were being handled that IT was not aware of in customer use cases. And so now organizations are kind of stepping back and saying, OK, let's experiment. Let's make this an iterative process. Everybody's got the wide-eyed wonder, right? All the hype cycles come and gone. I say come and gone, I think it's still there. But now what does that mean? How do we help prove that success? And that's where, if you think about the actions required to get to that point of success, the way I look at it when I talk to customers, it kind of boils down to alignment from top to bottom, then outcomes. So focused very much and very clearly on what is it that you're trying to drive. And then based on that, figuring out a data strategy. And I think to make sense of all this, right, if you think about the alignment, the outcomes, and the data strategy, I'm going to walk you through how we think about it, how we talk to customers, and how to make sense of this. And we do have a booth later, so come find us and talk to us there to kind of think more through your use cases and how you can be an Einstein. It's there's really no surprise. Everyone's talking about this AI revolution. But I'll point one thing out to you. When you look at this graph here, or you look at this slide here, you notice that there's wave 1, 2, 3, and 4, and everyone is kind of focused on 2 and 3. Most of the conversations today have been around 2 and 3, maybe even 4. But if you look at wave 1, that's sort of where your foundation sits. And a lot of customers that we talk to, they've got a lot of data spread across their organization. They've probably hired many different people that can handle data in different ways, but they may not have made the best use of it using predictive models. And so right now, we're all holding this hammer that's a generative hammer, and every nail we see is something that we want to solve with using an LLM model. But that's not necessarily the right way to do it. As you've heard from many different speakers, it's also cost prohibitive. But the use cases don't always make sense to say generative everything. So you got to think and sit back again. What's the alignment? What are the outcomes? And then what's the data strategy you're after? So if you think about this AI revolution, ultimately everyone wakes up and says, I need an AI strategy. This is a true story. I was on a tech detox on November 30th, 2022, when Sam Altman sent out that message. And so I actually had no idea that this had happened. I was with my kids riding a bike down on Orchard. And the next day, every single customer was asking about AI strategy. And I was thinking, what did I miss? So I pull up my phone, and I look through the news, and I'm like, wow. I was a tech detox on probably the worst possible day in the history of technology. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, why is everyone asking for the same thing, AI strategy? Well, there's two reasons, I think. And I've seen this over and over again. And I want you all to take a moment and step out of sort of that badge that you have, the company you represent, and just think of yourself as a consumer for a second. Think of yourself as a consumer for almost any service that you use today. Your expectations are all the way up here. They're through the roof. Customer loyalty is pretty much bottoming out because switching costs are so easy. So when you look at all of the different experiences now at the badge that you're wearing, at what you have to offer your customers, and you know that even you, yourself, your expectations are high, your loyalty's questionable, and switching costs are easy, that's why you need to figure out how do you provide a strategy powered by AI analytics, and insights so you can get to your customer where they are and provide them with the service that they expect. But like every other conversation, getting value out of AI or any new technology is hard because it kind of falls back to the same topics: integration. Where's the data? When your customers call you, whether you're in a customer service experience or you're calling them to make a sale, if you don't have what you need at your fingertips when you're having that experience, that customer experience is critical to the success of, again, the name of that badge that you're wearing right now. So what does that mean? If you really need that data and you really need to take value of all of that data that sits out there, you have to also accept one very simple fact, is that most enterprises are scattered with islands and islands of trapped data. Silos, as we used to call them. Now we call them trapped data. The reason we call them trapped data is because if you could make use of this data, it could provide you with unbelievable analytics and insights to better provide service to your customers, to better sell to them, better marketing experiences, commerce experiences, you name it. But why are you unlocking this data? It's not a data strategy for the sake of data. Like, I've got good data, let me clean the data. That's generally like a 10-year project that never ends. Somebody gets fired in the middle, and everyone's unhappy still, and you still haven't figured out what you're trying to go after. And so for Salesforce, for the last 25 years, what we've focused on is how do we help you become a customer company? What does that mean? Very simply, how do we help you connect with your customers? When your customers connect with you and you're working with Salesforce, the way we think about it is, at that point of connection, sales, service, marketing, commerce, industry solutions, wherever it is that you're working with your customer, are you able to give them the best possible experience? Because again, back to expectation, loyalty, and switching costs. And that's where our AI strategy is focused. And we look at it in a simple way. I say simple, it's not very simple, but it's about creating an AI strategy focused on the customer. And so this is sort of a, you could think of it as steps, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen sequentially. First and foremost, you think about the data. Now, you may want to unify the data right away. Probably not a great idea. You want to think about what you want in terms of data strategy first. But then you start to think about the insights. And as you're discovering the insights, what if you could have an engagement, like you collaborate with AI in the flow of work? What if you could actually have the AI as a part or as a sort of a sub-employee of yours, somebody that's sort of a co-pilot that you're engaging with? As you start to collaborate with it, you realize what are some skills that I could provide with this AI within the flow of work, and then how can I equip it to act? And when you think about this, there's a lot of things, a lot of topics around agentic experiences, a lot of topics around autonomous agents, how it is that you're actually going to deploy this in the flow of work. And so you want to look at the human in the loop, but you also want to look at autonomous work that's going on. And later, do come find us. I didn't show the forward-looking statement here earlier, but there's a lot of work that we're doing to figure out what it is going to look like in the future without humans at the helm, for example. Or what are some experiences that could be automatically triggered by the data, by the workflows, by the automations. Because one of the things that's really important, as you look at that very happy person in the center there, is that in order for that person to smile, they should not know about all of these steps that you're going through. It should be seamless to them. But it should also be done with the utmost trust in mind. Trust is our number one value. And in order for us to actually deploy this technology, we have an entire team in-house around responsible use of technology and responsible use of AI. And we think about it this way: accuracy, safety, honesty, empowerment, and sustainability. And I made that comment earlier. Everyone's got the generative hammer right now, and everything's a generative sort of tool that you're trying to solve for. That's not a very sustainable way to run your business, and it's probably not a very economical way either. And so you step back and you think about trust as a number one value. You think about those customer experiences, and that's where, back to everyone's in Einstein, we look at Einstein as the trusted AI grounded with your data, deployed in the flow of work. So this slide and the next slide is going to get a little bit deeper into our technology, but let me explain this. Last 25 years, we started in the cloud, and similar to these types of conversations about the hype cycle and people getting anxious about how it's going to work, it was very much about if we can establish trust with our customers, then we can deploy a CRM technology in the cloud. So we started there with trust and CRM. As that happened, all of the data was spread across many different lakehouses, warehouses, in-house, wherever you can think of. Data is spread, and it's been ubiquitous. And then those silos of data and trapped data started showing up everywhere. So we said to ourselves, OK, how do we continue to create a trusted model around the data so that as you look at AI, again, predictive as well as generative, how will you create great experiences for your customer in the most trusted possible way? So you'll hear a lot of Salesforce people talking about AI, data, CRM, and trust. And this is the foundation of it. But if I take one step deeper, this is how we look at the architecture. Now, there's this concept, if you step back and you look at the experiences that you're having using any LLM model out there, there's a UI that you use to interact with this model, and that model has access to data, basically, at the most basic possible way. So what we on the Salesforce product side have looked at is said, OK, what are the different UIs that customers are expecting? What are they using? What does the flow of work look like? When you pull out your phone, when you make a phone call, when you're on a marketing journey, when you're on e-commerce, or in a financial services environment, wealth advisors. All of that is the top. So you look at those apps and workflows, and then you've got the Copilot that sits across all of them. The way we look at it is, if you're in a sales cycle with a customer, and they happen to have opened a very high priority ticket with you in Service Cloud, you may not want to put them on a marketing campaign until you've resolved that issue. So if you have one Copilot across that, you have this insight and analytics that gives you the best possible experience to give your customers. That's the top side. You look at the middle, models. For us, it's about giving our customers customizability and configurability of the platform. This has always been sort of our focus from the very beginning. If you want customers to use Salesforce in the most relevant way for themselves, then you need to make it easy for them to move things around. So you create these builders. And so you've got this studio, you've got the trust layer, which I won't get into today in more detail, and you've got model agility. And model agility, like I said earlier, the models, I wouldn't say don't matter, but they're going to change. And so you need to be able to pick the model that you need for your business, whether it's large language models, small language models, large action models, or industry-specific models. You need to be able to pick and choose what you need for that specific experience, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all. And then finally, from a data perspective, if you want those silos of data and trapped data to be easily accessible, we have something called Data Cloud, where we've basically re-architected all of Salesforce to make it easy for you to bring all of your unstructured data into Salesforce, make it look essentially like Salesforce objects, which then allows you to power workflows and automations. So this is the only technical slide in this presentation, I promise you. But this is essentially like if I broke down how we think about the AI strategy, it's the same sort of idea that you're going to interact with your customers. You want to have customizability and configurability of what those workflows look like, and you want to feed it with the right data in the most trusted possible way. So if I take a step back and think about what this means moving forward, companies are looking to invest with a build, borrow, or buy strategy. And from our perspective, we've stepped back and said, if we looked at all of the different use cases, and I say use cases loosely, we're looking at use cases in terms of personas, so sales persona, service, marketing, commerce, et cetera. This is just the tip of the iceberg, what could fit on this slide. And again, because I don't have the forward-looking statement, there's a roadmap slide. You should come by and we'll show it to you. Essentially, we're saying out of the box, we're providing you with these tools that will easily fit into those different workflows so that you have AI in the flow of work. Ultimately, you want that to be where your customers are. You want to make it a seamless experience for them. And so this is how we think about it, because again, speed to value, risk mitigation, specificity, these are very important things that all of our customers are asking about. And so that's how we're looking at these solutions. We do have a research team based in Singapore and Palo Alto that are looking at some really cutting-edge stuff. But again, that's a different presentation. If I had more than 20 minutes, I'd talk you through that. It's very exciting stuff. Maybe not as far as, let's say, like science fiction, but there's definitely some of those demos and tools that if you see, you'll be like, wow, there's a lot out there when you think about the borrow and customize bucket. So I'm going to come back to where I started earlier, which is that the way to make the most of your AI strategy, when you take a step back and you look at all of the discussions that you've had here, and true story, I presented this slide to a customer, and the CIO asked me for my address to send me an edible fruit basket because he's been trying to convince his team that they shouldn't start with data first. They should align on what they're trying to do, have an outcome based on actual business value, and then figure out the data. And the fact that he couldn't convince them to do this until we had this presentation and we walked through this was something that he was just so excited about that I have a fruit basket if anybody wants some extra fruit out here as well. So the most important thing, one of our customers said this, the CEO walked in and he said, by the end of this year, I want 3 projects that are live using generative AI, just 3. Figure it out. And the reason he did that is because internally, within the organization, there were about 24 projects, if I'm not mistaken, that he knew about, by the way. And so he realized that there's a lot of really cool projects, and he didn't want to stop the innovation, but he also said, I do want you all to align on 3. Let's get started on 3. Here are the outcomes. You figure out the business value. Is it some sort of customer retention, top line, bottom line? What is the outcome that we're working towards? And then let's invest in the data strategy. Whatever that data strategy needs to be to deploy those 3 things with those business outcomes. It was that simple. I say that simple, obviously getting the CEO in the room is not simple, but getting that alignment was critical to move forward. Because again, customers, they're not waiting for you to get it right. You don't get it right, they move on. And that costs a lot of money. So you need to figure out what that data strategy looks like where you put your customer at the center. The way we think about it to start your CRM, data, AI trust journey is essentially 3 simple ways. Use cases, business value, and getting hands-on. There's a lot of really cool tools out there, but if you don't get your hands on the tool, you don't actually know how it works. You get your hands on the tool and you're excited, amazed, interested in all the different possibilities, but then you got to figure out, is there any business value to that work that you're trying to do? And if there is, excellent, that use case checks the box, and you move on to the next one. So this is sort of the project that we went to the CEO and said, okay, let's simplify the whole thing. We'll do these 3 things as many times as you need to get to those 3 use cases that you want to deploy by the end of the year. And I mention this not just from a Salesforce context, I mention this from an overall technology adoption and all the S-curves and everything you've heard about. If you don't consider the business value, you're not going to get to the point that you'll get the investment for the next thing. But if you don't consider the use cases separate from the business value, you might diminish that innovation that could be coming from your teams, from your employees, from your partners, from your customers. So it's very important to think about these. And then as you get hands-on, you see the tool, really cool use case, is there business value? Check, move on. And sometimes that means also just getting a check so you can move on. And so that ultimately, if I had to wrap up everyone as an Einstein as a topic for this discussion, is take a step back, right? There is a lot of hype. There's a lot of interest. There's also a lot of great tools out there and lots of really good ways to learn. For us, I would encourage you to come visit us at the booth at P05 and 07. And if you can't find us, just follow the smell of popcorn. We have a popcorn station there for any of you that are looking for some popcorn. So thank you very much. Best of luck for the next day. And I will speak to you at the booths. Take care.